we are, bottom of the 112-foot rise over a third of a mile. We're going to see if we can get up the hill. Nothing prepares you when you get it out of the box for the size of this bike, but then if you haven't ridden 20 before wheels for a while, it is going to come as a bit of a shock. But riding it over was awesome. 48 volts, 20 amp hours. You know, it's quite a good range on it. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, let's get up that hill. Right, let's see how it gets up this hill. As you all know from previous videos, this is a third of a mile run and it rises 112 feet. So if you can't make it up here with your e-bike, it's not worth buying. That's what I say. But yeah, finally the sun's come out. Yeah, these are 26-inch wheels, which I've not ridden for a while, but it's making it up here no problem. Yeah. So I weigh 235 pound. With my pack on, it's 250 pound. So, you know, it's not like some 12-stone person riding this bike. This puts this bike under a lot of pressure. But yeah, absolutely no problem, well done. Let's get on with a bit of familiarity. Here we go. Let's go find some hills. So I'm gonna head down into town now. We're gonna have a look at what this big thing's like in traffic. I don't ride these around on sort of country lanes or anywhere where there's no traffic about. Most of you know that if you buy one of these, you're going to be buying it to get about on. And that's why I like to review these bikes with a bit of traffic riding. This is the first day in a while we haven't had any rain, and we're due rain tomorrow, just for a change, because it's summer. We're due rain on Sunday. I'm filming a car show Sunday, so, or a car meet. We're heading up into town, bit of town riding, see what it's like in the town and the cities. You know, the way that most of you are going to be riding your e-bikes. So, maximum PSI on the tyres is 20. I'm running these at around about 19, just under, and that seems fine. I've got a bit of give in the tyres. As you can probably see, it's got a seat suspension post on, but I've been messing around adjusting it, and I have to be honest with you, it's not the best, but you know yourself, you can swap them out for, you know, very little money and have probably well, you would have a far more comfortable bike. But yeah, it's so far so good. We've had no sun here for days. It's been terrible, and when it did come out yesterday, it was 40-mile-an-hour wind, so I couldn't do a lot yesterday. It does feel strange after riding 20 before e-bikes for so long, coming back to a 26 before. For some unknown reason you feel higher up, but technically the seat post is I think it's just because of the geometry and how you sit on the bike and how you sit forward. But it's a nice feeling. It's like when you get out your sports car and then you get into a 4x4. That's the only way I can describe it. It's like riding a truck and not riding a sports car or driving a sports car. But it's a very nice position. I'm just comfortable in it. I'm 6 foot with a 32-inch inseam, and this bike, with a few adjustments, feels like it's been made for me. It's just been properly set. It's just been properly set up for me. That's how it feels. That's virtually out of the box. 5 minutes of adjustments and you're away. But yeah, it's a cracking thing. Go for it. What do you want to know?
I've been looking at these online, and I thought price were a bit too
good to be true.
Yeah, too good to be true, so it put me off.
Really?
Because I've heard there's online now, there's some scams in there.
Yeah.
And that's what's put me off.
No, if you buy direct from Engwe, you won't
they
have
deliver?
Yeah, they deliver.
Yeah, I saw that bit. Then I saw a price, I thought, nowadays you've got to be careful buying online and it would deliver and things like that, and your bank details and stuff. That's what.
Yeah.
So if I think that, other people might think that.
Yeah, you've got a good point, to be honest. Yeah, they've got a big anti-scam list on their website.
Right.
So there's a big list, but I advise everybody just buy directly from Engwe.
Yeah. And where's their office?
China. They're all out of China.
Right.
But they've got a phone number for the UK, and they've got online support.
So where's the dispatch from? England or China?
They've got their own English warehouse. So if you order one, you'll have one within five to 7 days.
And where's their warehouse?
I think it's Cheshire, but don't.
Right, I'll have a look online when I get back today. Then.
But you can't go and pick them up; they only deliver.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah, thought buying stuff online, paying that amount of money with what's going off.
Yeah,
scams and that.
Yeah.
And like I said, if I think that, how many people will think that?
For me, I'd be looking at getting it on PayPal Pay for 3. So you pay in 3 installments for no interest.
Yeah. Is that with PayPal?
PayPal Pay in 3.
Yeah.
So if anything goes wrong in that time, or if it's not delivered, you get your money back because it's down to PayPal.
I'll have a look when I get back this afternoon then, or over the weekend.
Have a look.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you. My name's Ted anyway.
Hi, Terry.
Thank you. From Leeds.
The tyres are a bit noisier than the usual 20B4s I'm used to. But, it's to be expected by the footprint they've got. But they're very grippy, which is, I assure you, what you want from a tyre. Let's go find some hills. I have mentioned before, I think, well, I'm going to mention it now. It's got a 20 ampere 48 volt battery in it, which is, if you're used to the 20x4s, it's another 4 amperes on top. But what you have to remember is you're probably another 10 kilos in the bike. So the range you get out of your folding 20x4 bikes is probably going to be the same as the range that you're going to get out on here. Right, let's get up this hill. See how this feels. Absolutely no problem. It's definitely the difference between the 20 befores riding around on a sports car and this being a truck. You know, if you drive at all and you've driven a sports car and then you've driven a truck, that's how this feels. It's the only way I can equate it. And as analogies go, I think it's a pretty good one. It's very stable. Whereas the 20 befores with the goosenecks on are very nimble, this feels more planted. So if you have a preference for a more planted e-bike, this is the one. You can definitely feel the weight of this bike. And in a way, that's a good thing. Not that any of these bikes are light, but this definitely feels much more planted. So here we are coming back into town. Got some cogs. Definitely feels comfortable. Like I said, that seat isn't the best, and I'd definitely swap it out for an higher grade seat post, but yeah, the seat's definitely more comfortable as well. Take a mooch along a cycle path I've never taken you down before. This actually takes us to the underneath of the M1 motorway, which has some nice graffiti, so I want to go down there, do some photos and do some other bits while I'm down there. But it's a nice spot. This is genuinely a comfortable bike. The seat's comfortable. The suspension seat post, not so much. So it's a bit of an odd one, really. Anybody else ever go over a twig and it makes that popping sound like it's gone through the tyre? You know what I mean? It's like you hear that pop and you think, oh no, not the tyre, and it's not the tyre, it's just catching on the twig, and probably just me. Like I said, this is the first sunny day we've had in days, and it's just the whole of July is virtually looking like it's going to be a wipeout apart from a couple of days up here, so I'm filming when I can, really. You know, it's definitely a bike you can take anywhere. It really is. It's one of those bikes that feels like it could do really good long distance rides comfortably. I feel comfortable on this bike, and I think, like I said, it's probably the lean position that I'm in. But yeah, definitely happy wherever you throw it. It's just, yeah, so you take it off backtracking, or, you know, it's fine in this grass. It's probably those 26-inch knobblers that give it all that grip, but it's fine in the grass. The one thing I wish Engwe could sort out is their seats. The seat on this is actually pretty good. It's just a seat post. It's probably my weight. Goes down and then stays down, and then at the most awkward moment it pops back up, which, as you can imagine, it gets annoying. I've tried tensioning it out and it's just cheap. Like I said, for the cost of this bike, it's easily replaced like with a Suntour one. It's just annoying that when you get out for the first time of the ride, this is your experience with it. But then again, their seats are probably designed for, you know, little 12 stone dudes or 11 stone dudes, not 17 stone dudes, and it's not something they factored in. I like this cycle path. I don't come down it that often, and as you can see, it's quite a nice spot. And I don't know if the microphone's picking it up yet, but that's the M1 motorway that you can probably see off in the distance, and we're going underneath that. I just bumped into some poor chap that got a puncture, well, a double puncture, same tyre, 2 bits of metal, poor sod, and he's 30 miles from home. He was on a EMTB. That's a bit unfortunate, is that? Bit unfortunate. Well, the sun's come out and the wind's gone down. Well, the wind's gone down round here, which is nice. Some cracking graffiti around here, look. So we got the mud guards and the rear light. The rear light is a brake light. Let's see if I can reach the brakes. And there you go. Quite decent front suspension out of the box. Dual sided chain guard, which is, it stops that chain from popping out, which is quite sweet. And they put the new derailleur guard on. Not being funny, but that thing's quite thick. I've seen it on other bikes recently, and I think the days of having your derailleur guard bent into your derailleur are over. But yeah, quite a sweet setup, especially for the money. This thing for the money is absolutely remarkable, really is. We've got Chaoyang puncture resistant tyres, 26 inch, Tawny derailleur. Nice climb out of here. I do like an hill. And I do like putting these bikes through their paces, because when you're spending this sort of money, you want to make sure that you're getting something half about. Right, let's take it down the bypass. It's about what? It's 3:15 on a Friday evening, afternoon, whatever. So I don't expect it to be too busy. Let's go. If you're going to ride in spaces like this, make sure you've got mirrors, make sure you've got an helmet on, because this is traffic that can still be moving at 50 miles an hour. And at 50 miles an hour, This sort of traffic can hurt you. And there we go. Just going across the M1 again now. And back down into Wakefield. Come on, beat the lights, beat the lights. Right, let's get up one of my favourite hills. Well, I say favourite, it's just horrible, as we all know. This in its own way is nearly as bad as the start-off hill, the 112-foot climb. Because this is just horrible bends that just drag your battery down. But not running the dropping of the cog. It's getting up here, and we're quite down. We're about down to halfway through the battery, and I've been all over the place on it today. But as you can tell, no heavy breathing. Job's a good one. And this is it. We're heading off to the hill to have a little chat about this bike and what I think of it, and then we'll do the breakdown. Go from there. So what do I think of it? Well, it's big and it's yellow. It's definitely yellow, and it's comfortable. It's definitely a different riding style to what I've been used to of late, but there's nothing wrong with that. It looks lovely, and that's coming out of my mouth, lovely. It's a step forward. It really is a real big step forward for Engwe. And it's just some of the little details. A bit in the breakdown, I'll show you the charging port. It's brilliant. And I wish it was the same charging port on all their bikes, but it's not. That headlight's really funky, the halo headlight. I really like that. It's definitely a step up. They're definitely trying to upgrade their bikes. I even like the bell. I even like the sound the bell makes. It's a cracking little thing. I say little. It's a cracking big thing. I like the pedals, the Weagle pedals. They're wide enough for my feet. I think if I'm being picky, I don't like the Tombstone. I've never liked them. And if I'm also being picky, well, this ain't being picky, that suspension seat post is pretty much dire. I suppose if you weighed about 12 stone, it'd be fine, but I tried adjusting it and it just doesn't take heavy weight. And that's what this bike's for. Well, it is in my case. It's not unwieldy. It feels lighter than it looks when you're riding it. And there's plenty of, if you have to reverse round, or if you have to turn it round, there's plenty of grab parts on the bike. But there's some bits that I'll get to in the breakdown that I'll explain a little bit better that could do with addressing. It's definitely got a secret superpower, which is partly why I asked for this bike in the first place. Nobody looks at somebody that looks like I do riding round on a bright yellow step-through electric bike. They don't. They really don't. And I passed a couple of coppers today and only one of them looked up and he didn't really look at me. So that goes a long way to proving the point. I've spoken to a few people today, probably sold 2 bikes out of the 3 people that I spoke to, because they absolutely loved it. And it goes back to that thing, if Engwe had a proper store that Engwe controlled, that wasn't a subsidiary, you know, where you were getting people selling bikes out of backyards and whatever, it's just, yeah, I can understand what that bloke said about when he was talking about, well, I haven't bought one because all these online sites look dodgy. So I think one of the things I need to do is help Engwe with their grammar. I have been doing bits to send to my contact, and I have explained the situation. She said like whatever I can do to help, so I am trying to help them with that and get the grammar correct on, because if the grammar's not correct, the site looks dodgy. And being somebody that designs websites for a living, that sort of rings true. Police don't look at it. That's its superpower. And you don't want to be stopped every 5 minutes on your e-bike. You don't want to be stopped at all. And it's really rare when you get stopped out, I guess, but you don't want to be stopped. And if you do, you don't want to be having your bike taken off you. But they look at this and I think there's something in the brain that says, well, it's bright yellow, he's a big dude, it's a step through, he's an older bloke. You know, it rings that, you know, he's not causing any trouble. I love that halo headlight, it's fab. But again, I'll talk about that in the breakdown. But yeah, like all Engwe's bikes, are quite unique in the way they look. And more power to them. There's some bikes that just don't work, but I think the whatever it was C20, I think they've discontinued it. It just didn't look right, did it? It just didn't look like it supported itself properly. It wasn't a big seller, I don't think, and I think that's why they pulled it. And I never liked the look of it, so I can understand why they pulled it. It's definitely all kicking off down there, and there's music and all sorts of stuff going on. I'll say this every time, and that's why I chose this colour. The colour's stunning, especially in the sunlight. It just sort of glows. Like I said, it's a bike that it's got a lot of charm to it as well. Say 3 different people come up to me today. I think I sold 2. And when I asked one of the guys how much he thought it was, and he was with his daughter and his wife, he said, "Oh, expensive, about 8 grand." And he nearly fell over when I told him the actual price. What? Yeah, this is a lot of bike for the money. This really is a lot of bike for the money. When you understand what you're getting for the money in comparison from other, you can get cheaper crap, but who wants that? Engwe are going out, and the Engwe are going a long way to resolve any issues that they've got with the bikes before they get to the customer. The packing of the bikes now. You can tell they don't want any damage to the bike before it gets there. And I think that was a big problem for them. I like it. Anyway, let's get into the breakdown. So the Engwe E26 step through.
let's do the breakdown. So the reason I asked for the bike is, one, it's a step through, and because I haven't really got mobility issues with my hips, but I don't want to make it any worse. It's a really comfortable bike to get on and off. And like I said, that's the main reason I wanted a step through to test. And the second reason was that colour. That colour is, I really like that colour. And it makes it stand out. And so you probably heard me say about it has a superpower. And that superpower is that the police aren't going to look at a 6-foot dude who looks like I do, riding around with a helmet on, gloves, all the safety gear, and think he's doing something wrong because I'm riding around on the speed limit. I know I've got my throttle activated, but you can't move these bikes without the throttle. And besides that, you don't want the police looking at you anyway. If you get a bald copper, he's going to pull you over, and you don't want that. And this goes against what I say about the grey man thing about when you're riding an e-bike, be a grey man, because this is hide in plain sight, and it works really well. I went past a couple of coppers. One actually looked up and didn't look at me, I think he just looked at the bike, and the other one looked up straight ahead. And if you can't see a bright yellow bike in your peripheral vision, he didn't even look at me. So I think it works in that respect. Comfortable, it really is comfortable. For riding the last, 2.5 years, just over 2 years on 20 before bikes, and getting back on a 26 before bike, it's a different thing. It's a different feel. It's a different geometry, and it's a different way you ride the bike. It's the way you sit is slightly different. And within that, I think range on this, if you want to throw another battery on the back or buy another battery from Engwe and get a bit of range on it, you're going to be comfortable there and back. I say comfortable. The seat's fine. It's actually nicer than the other seats that they have on the Engwe bikes, but that suspension seat post isn't very good at all. It's the cheapest common denominator they've thrown on the bike. And like I said, it's probably, if you're 11, 12 stone, it works, but you know, I weigh 235 pounds and it doesn't work for me. So it's the first thing I'd swap out, and I did try swapping it out to the ones that I've recently bought for the folders, but it's a different fit, it's a different size, so I couldn't use it. It's not unbearable. And to be honest, if you have the tyres set slightly lower than the 20 PSI max, it absorbs a lot of the bumps anyway. I never felt at any point that I was being jarred going through over a pothole or a bump or anything else. It worked, it did what it needed to do. The front suspension's fine. It's got a little bit more travel than the 20 before bikes, probably the same make. Yeah, the front forks are fine. 180 rotors, 2-piston hydraulic brakes. Again, I think these are unbranded Logan brakes. They work really well. Really, really well actually. And I never found stopping to be an issue, especially at some of the speeds I was doing and over the terrain I was doing it on. So thumbs up with them. Pleasant surprise was the Wellgo pedals. They're brilliant. They're wide and grippy, and because I've got wide feet, as I pointed out in other videos, yeah, they're really welcome. And it's normally what I end up swapping my pedals out for anyway, something wider and something grippy, and probably a different colour to these, but virtually the same thing. That halo headlight is brilliant. I know I keep going on about it, but it really is. It makes the bike, and it's very bright, and I wouldn't have any qualms about riding around at night with just that on, but I normally add another light to my bikes. The kickstand's nice and sturdy. It's obviously longer than the normal ones that we get because of the height of the bike or the height of the axle. So, but it's sturdy. It didn't seem to move. There's nothing coming loose. I've been riding around on it a couple of days and nothing's come loose on this bike whatsoever. It's got a nice basket point on the front, and it's got a nice basket point on the rear rack. But here's the problem. Engwe aren't selling any racks in the UK. I don't know if it's a stock issue, but they're not selling any of the racks. You can buy them on Alibaba to fit. And the one that they do for the E26 looks like an out tray. It's horrible. I've seen the flexible front basket or bag, and that's not what we need. We need a basket, and we need a basket for the rear too. So the one that you're advertising on your other sites, your Euro and American sites, it looks like an out tray for paperwork. So coming back to that front basket point, it's left exposed to the metal. And what I'd probably do is I'd take the screws out of the rear rack and put them in there, because water ingress into the frame's never a good idea, especially if the metal's exposed. So that's what I'll be doing with that. As I keep saying, that seat post, it's fit for purpose for somebody that's lighter, but somebody my weight, it's not fit for purpose. And as much as I tried to adjust it, it was a bit dire. Like I said, when it went down, it popped up at the most inappropriate time. So if you were going over a bump or something, you lift yourself up and it flick itself up into your jewels. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that seat post whatsoever. The seat on the other hand is very comfortable. It's more comfortable than the seats that they've got on their other bikes at the moment. But then, you know, I'm an older dude, so, and like I said, the seats that they're fit into, the 20B4s, probably perfectly fine for most other people, but for the sake of £30, buy a Cloud9. They're very, very comfortable. So let's get down to the charging port. This is the charging port, and I'd love to see this on other bikes, and they probably are on other bikes that I've not come across yet. But they're a massive step up from a bit of rubber attached to a screw that barely fits in a hole. And I have a theory that there's slight water ingress getting into those bikes and damaging the batteries. Not all of them. You know, battery knockers I've mentioned before, where the battery rattles around because the batteries are ill fitting. But it's the same for all these manufacturers that are making these. They all have the same problem because they obviously buy their stuff in. It's not, they don't manufacture every part of the bike. So you're going to get bikes that have battery knock. This causes sparking, and then you end up with the melting connectors on the bikes. People that keep saying my battery's melted, your battery's not melted. It's the connectors that are melting. And that's through sparking, because you have to imagine the charge that's going through that plastic. I love the bell, and I love the sound it makes. It's far more get out the way than that beep horn that you get on the beep, beep, beep that you get on the 20B4s. I like it, and to be honest, I'm gonna start using a bell. I prefer it. And to be honest, it don't take up much space on your handlebars. So, but I've also ordered one for when I do my security video that holds an AirTag. And that'll be in the bike security video when I get round to finishing it off. That's about it, the breakdown. So, what would I give it out of 10? So, normally I sort of knock points off for the saddle, but this time I'm gonna knock points off for the suspension seat post and the lack of support for baskets to go on the bike in the UK. Come on, Engwe. In fact, your site currently looks pretty bare, so I know you're due a restock. So this bike isn't for everybody. The geometry of the bike and the height of the bike, you're gonna have to be 5'5", 5'6" to get it down on its lowest point. And that means taking the suspension seat post off and putting a normal post in. But I'd be quite happy being 6'6" and riding around on this bike too. I like the adjustability of the handlebar and the adjustable stem. It's one of my biggest bugbears, that you have to fit yourself to the bike and not the other way round. So let's get into the points. Like I said, seat post is knocking some points off. The lack of availability of baskets for this bike. I mean, if you're going to buy the bike, you're going to want the baskets, really. I mean, especially if you're going out wanting it to be using it for shopping and various other bits and bats. I mean, I don't like the back basket on this one, so I could have taken a tripod with me, or a decent sized tripod, but it wasn't to be. So, yeah, I've had a good think about it, and it's 9.2 out of 10. It's down to those three things, really. The geometry doesn't present well for shorter riders. but that's not the fault of the bike. But if you're thinking of getting one and you're a shorter rider, don't. The fact that that seat post is pretty horrid, and it was an afterthought. And those exposed bolt points at the front where the basket goes, like I said, I'm going to take the ones off the rear rack and put them in there, because you don't want water ingress into exposed metal. As much as you think aluminium don't rust or chromalloy don't rust or whatever, it does. It can break down. Just have a look at your alloy wheels. So that's it. I'll see you next time. Hopefully the next video will be my security video. Actually, before then, I'm going to try and get the video for the suspension seat post done. Then that one. I've got something coming up in the future around UK e-bike law again, and we're going to have another chat about that and what I've been doing in the background. Have a nice day, everyone.